Hellmaster EX. This award-winning system features the first single-engine joystick with digital electric steering and new autopilot capability. See Hellmaster EX in action at a Yamaha Outboard dealer or visit YamahaOutboards.com.
The Fishing News is sponsored by these fine partners.
It's Thursday, July 25th, 2024, and it's hard to believe that we are heading into the final weekend of July, almost halfway through the summer of 2024. In fact, if you're in your teens or 20s and you're thinking that time just passes by so quickly, wait until you're old and decrepit like me. The sands of the hourglass, as you get towards the bottom, they start running faster and faster. I can assure you. Carpe diem, my friends, seize the day. Jim Hutchinson with a New Jersey, Delaware Bay edition of the Fisherman magazine. Hey, first things first this week in our video fishing forecast. Matt Broderick from Long Island, Dave Anderson from New England, New Jersey's own Jenni Ackerman, and myself managed through the global tech crisis on Friday and got ourselves on airlines out of Orlando Airport after wrapping up a full week of ICAST. Yeah, so we were here to fish this weekend and started another work week. If you see the missing stickers on my laptop, you'll also realize that I had a computer crash to start the week. Just another great ICAST, that's for sure. But hey, look, we spent the whole week walking through the Orange County Convention Center in Orlando, Florida, for the International Convention of Allied Sport Fishing Trades. That's ICAST, the largest trade show in the world. In fact, they say it was attended by 14,000 people from 75 countries around the globe. And I said it last week, it's all about building a better mousetrap with manufacturers working to imagine new recreational fishing tools that we can employ throughout this year and the following year to up our score. Progress, innovation, basically what can be unburdened by what has been. I think the four of us walking the floor of ICAST cut about 75, maybe 80 different new product spotlights. And the very first review is out today, July 25th. That's Quantum. We got a chance to interview Mike Rice from Quantum Saltwater. And I say it that way because the folks at Quantum, 40 years in business at this point, they are now dedicating themselves 100% to the saltwater arena. New product review. Number one of this summer is the Quantum announcement of a new saltwater spinning reel coming this fall. Some great Quantum rods too. I know a lot of friends in New Jersey especially just loved their Quantum Cabos in the past. Well, you're going to like this one then. If you liked Cabo for the price, the durability, and performance, I think you're going to be excited about the new Strive and Benchmark reels coming out this fall from Quantum. You'll see that full video also in the YouTube video lineup this week. That's the first. Next week, Monday, we're going to have Yo-Zuri. Jenni talked to Chris Bishop about some brand new colors from Yo-Zuri, tailored to the our Northeast striped bass fishery. So that was fantastic. We also have next Thursday an award-winning electric reel entry from the folks at PENN. That will come out a week from today. So if you're a tile fish guy, tired of tripping over cables, a replaceable battery and the new PENN Fathom Electric reel may be just up your alley. That's going to be released in September, but we've got the new product review coming a week from today because that was the overall best of show at ICAST 2024. So yeah, we all got out of Orlando on Friday, and I was able to slip out on the upper Barnegat Bay for some fluking on Sunday morning. Suffice to say, I caught a lot of short fluke, just like everybody else. In fact, wherever you are in the Garden State, we're hearing the same thing. The flounder fishery, the summer flounder fishery, has left a lot to be desired during this 2024 season. Plenty of sublegal fish in the inlets and back bays, and ocean water temperatures are still on the cool side. Predominantly, that's due to that prevailing southerly wind. More south wind this season than any season I remember, and even though southerlies are your prevailing summer wind. That said, taking a look at the midweek forecast from NOAA Marine Weather this week, it looks like we have a couple of days of north wind. In fact, 3 days, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. When I match that up to my area where I fish, northern Barnegat Bay, where the tidal stretch there is roughly 2.5 hours after the open ocean beaches or the inlet high, right? So I'm looking at incoming tide from about 9 a.m., meaning my particular drift, right? Incoming tide for me goes north to south. And with the north winds blowing north to south, I may not even have to deploy the Minn Kota this weekend. I'm hoping for much better conditions. Beach fluking, of course, has been pretty solid up and down the coast. The word I'm getting. One of those particular reports that we compiled this weekend comes from Noel at One Stop Bait and Tackle in Atlantic City, who says Atlantic City fishing machine Super Fluke Will has been banging on him on the jetty system right around there in Absecon Inlet, the fluke and the jetties. He's had him up to 5 pounds, 7 ounces. He had his limit one particular day over this past weekend, and that flatty of just a little over 5 pounds was his biggest. Congratulations to the crew of Brian Piros, John Tucker, Danny Newfork, Bruce Stout Jr., and Rick from Jigging World for sweeping the Point Pleasant Elks and the JCSA fluke tournaments this past weekend. Now, Brian said, quote, didn't catch a lot, but they had one that was big enough. That was 7.6 pounds, good enough for a pretty big payday for working hard on the fluke rounds. I had a Freudian slip there. The JCAA Heavy Hitters is coming up next weekend. We'll talk a little bit more about that next week in the video fishing forecast. But yeah, sometimes it can be a lot of work, a lot of hard work this time of year. This season in particular, fluking, the south winds, the upwelling, bad drifts, trying to get on that ocean structure. But a lot of folks fishing the back and out front are all saying the same thing. It's been a struggle. But I'm fairly confident, I'm always confident, that this weekend things will turn on with some bigger fish. Because I still think it has a lot to do with the weather and the winds, the prevailing south. But again, as I said before, the NOAA forecast, for what it's worth, says we're going to see some north winds, light north winds this weekend. But there are fish to be had, good fish. Frank from Gabriel Tackle told me Angelina Bello had the pool winner aboard the Gambler out of Manasquan Inlet. Nicely done, Angelina. There was a 6-pounder for Steve Steele from Croydon, PA, fishing out of Belmar, aboard Captain Steve's Skylarker. That's there at the Belmar Marina. Out behind Wildwood over the weekend, CJ Quayle got his first keeper of the season. For a lot of us, that's the way it's been. That was an 18.25 incher caught on a homemade bucktail. And that came the day after Mom Shannon got hers, an 18.5 incher on a minnow with a floating jig head. We've talked about those floating jig heads. I banged a few this past weekend. They were just on the small side. Chucky Quayle said they were fishing the Turtle Creek area. He added, quote, it was a grind, but the fish were there. Chucky Quayle, the whole Quayle family, getting on them in the back. So yeah, they're there. I got to tell you, as much as I told you about the Tin Man floating jig heads several weeks back, I've also been having good success this year with the dirty boxer baits from Fish Bites, if you're looking to mix it up a little bit.
For more than 20 years, anglers everywhere have come to know one thing, that nothing says no to fish bites.
So Jenni Ackerman and I spent quite a bit of time together on the floor of ICAST last week doing our video features. She told me she was looking for feedback from our viewers. So on this week's Open Boat, Jenni is looking to answer any fishing questions you might have. Could be surf fishing, could be tactical. She does bucktails and a rod building. You might ask her about that. Could be some late season weak fish tips. Whatever it might be, she's open for questions and answers. Take it away, Jenni.
Hey everyone. Now on this week's Open Boat, we're going to do things a little bit differently. We all just got back from ICAST. I missed you guys. So we're going to be doing a Q&A. So you guys can ask me any fishing questions that you might have. What I want you guys to do is drop them in the comments section of just the solo Open Boat episode that airs on Sunday at 6 p.m. Don't put it in the video fishing forecast one. Save those comments for giving praises to the editors. But when it comes out on Sunday, you can drop a question. And we're going to do a follow-up Open Boat where I answer your questions, and you might even get a solo Open Boat devoted to just me answering your question. So post any fishing questions you have, whether it could be technical stuff or when can I target this fish or what's the best way to catch it, and we're going to do a follow-up video. But in between, we have a ton of awesome interviews, new fluking tactics that are producing well off the surf, and some other open boat content that I'm really looking forward to show you guys. So remember to post your fishing question in the solo open boat video, and I can't wait to see all the questions you guys have. I'm very excited to answer them, and I'll catch you guys on next week's open boat.
A lot of folks anchoring up with clam, chum, and sabiki rigs right now to snare some spot, probably for bait. Put in the bait pen. They make a great bait for doormat fluke, the fall striper run, obviously, and live spot are fantastic on the tuna grounds for those big tuna. South Jersey Back Bay anglers targeting sheepshead by boat and by shore, working the bridge pilings, the stanchions, the jetty rocks, and riprap. They're still scoring. Greg Sankowitz said he felt the sheepshead bite started out a little slower this season, primarily due to the cooler water temperatures, but said it's ramped up significantly in recent days and weeks. He reported a good number of these convict fish at undisclosed locations in the southern half of the Garden State, then Cape May County. He said bottom sweeper jigs tipped with sand fleas, fiddlers, and those invasive Asian shore crabs. Working on the August edition of the Fisherman right now. I'll have more about those crabs and sheepshead coming up next week when we talk again. Another big surprise this season in the central and southern portion of the state is the return of croakers or hardheads. Mentioned it recently, Justin at Allen's Dock in New Gretna just put it best this week. He said, if the young ones lose interest in fishing because it's a pick of fish, try fishing for these croakers. Justin said, quote, the croaker bite has been so hot the past few weeks, it's practically annoying. Any bait you've got, spearing minnows, squid, clams, again, you name it, and these hungry little croakers are gobbling them up. That's primarily Central Jersey, lower Little Lake Harbor, Great Bay, all the way down into Cape May, and ostensibly along the Delaware Bay shore as well. Fish ID time. Harold Herbert of Brick sent this over, caught on the Manasquan River while throwing a cast net with daughter Alessa. Said, what the heck is it? Checked in with Jeff Brust just to make sure. Jeff is at the Division of Fish and Wildlife. He said it's a gizzard shad. So interesting catch. Slimy one at that. Just be aware. There are a lot of different fish species you're going to catch. Goes back to what Justin told me as well from Allen's Dock in New Gretna. A lot of fish in the Back Bay and the saltwater right now. Sharks, sea bass, cow nose rays. And hopefully if you're going to anchor up, if you're feeling some of those bait stealers right now while you're drifting for fluke, it could be blowfish as well. So you might find yourself a quiet hole, set out that clam chum, and put the high-low rigs down, try to get yourself some blowfish. Again, the sabiki rigs are loading up on the spot as well. Kingfish are around, especially along the front beaches, easily caught in the summer with fish bites on a high-low rig. Pompano rig is what we always call them in South Jersey. You'll find them in a lot of tackle shops. Tyler Deck and his girlfriend Rachel loaded up on the kings at Hereford Inlet. Said it was actually clam that was getting it done as opposed to the fish bites. They had about 15 future fish tacos in the final couple of hours of daylight. Bluefish are around too, sometimes in good numbers. Sometimes in such good numbers, they're literally falling from the sky. Cynthia and Jeff Levine had a 1-pound bluefish crash through the windshield of their 2023 Tesla Y on Sunday afternoon. Created quite a ruckus. That story appeared in the Asbury Park Press by Danny Radell. I'm sure we know the culprit. There was a ruckus on the beach in Surf City this week, a thrashing tuna. Plus, I've got a marlin on a popper, mid-range mahi, an offshore weather forecast, and a few more interesting news headlines to tell you about in about 2 minutes. But first, let's go to a freshwater rundown with my friend George, the Pocono Outdoors guy.
Now is the best time to buy a boat at the Jersey Shore Boat Sale and Expo. Fishing boats for inland and offshore. Tons of center consoles. September 27th through 29th, Shoretown Ballpark, home of the Jersey Shore Blue Claws. Tickets at jerseyboatexpo.com.
Life is better with a boat.
Well, hey, thanks, Jim. You know, trying to get the report in between the weather here. A bit of a rain off and on here on Thursday, but looks like we're in for a great setup this coming weekend. You know, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday look clean. And I'll tell you what, after these cold fronts move in, those fish seem to get a bit of lockjaw during that period. But this coming weekend, once that passes and we get in some great weather, we might have some really good fishing on our hands. Keep an eye on those inflows, guys. That cooler water is going to be washing in some bait and some insects. It's going to keep that bite alive, hopefully, this coming weekend. So we'll see what you can do. A couple of guys checked in. Not a whole lot of action this week. We had Chris Matchison. He checked in from South Jersey. He was out there getting himself on a mess of crappie. He said the fishing was tough. He had to go with real light line, 4-pound test mono, just really early in the morning and just teasing them fish in. It's been a real tough bite, but it certainly paid off for you, Chris. Also, Paul Seward, he was in South Jersey as well. Kind of the same thing, finesse fishing those crappie, but it's a great bite, guys. You usually don't see that until later in the fall. Guys are getting on the crappie right now. Guys, I hope you have a better weekend than we had this week. Be sure you send in those pics and let us know what you get, and we'll see you next time. But get out and get on them. From Pennsylvania, I'm George, your Pocono Outdoors guy.
It's a stud.
Fisherman subscribers are paid members, $29.95 a year. You saw this week's digital weekly edition of the Fisherman magazine, the New Jersey Delaware Bay edition. It was online. We sent you the e-news update to your email on Monday. That's Randy Siprich on the cover with that Dream Boat weigh-in that we reported on about 2 weeks ago. For a look at the Dream Boat Fishing Challenge, the leaderboard, where we stand and where you might stand, let's go back to our virtual studios and check in with Tim Smith.
And now the Dream Boat Fishing Challenge entries for the week. We had 2 fluke entries. The first entry is from New England subscriber Lori Macha of Baltic, Connecticut, weighing in at 11.46 pounds, placing her in 6th. And then there's Joseph Kalo, a Long Island subscriber from Paterson, New York, with his fluke coming in at 10.2 pounds, placing him in 7th in the fluke category. In the sea bass category, we have New England subscriber Eric Husbo from Falmouth, Massachusetts, weighing in at 4.4 pounds, which places him in 1st place. Long Island subscriber Ken Sparks weighs in his sea robin at 2.3 pounds, placing him in 6th. The leaderboard now looks like this. Scott Waterman with 17 points. Anthony Savino dropped a point with 15. Brian Zembretsky at 13 points. Plenty of time to enter your fish to win the Steigercraft powered by Yamaha and other great prizes. But you must be a Fisherman subscriber to enter. We can't stress enough that those weigh-in forms must be completely filled out. Please make sure before you leave the weigh station to look over the form to make sure they are correct. We have 1 new entry in the Coastal Kayak Clash. Gregory Vergare of Long Island caught this 17.25-inch porgy just a 1/4 inch short of Justin Oser's. So the standings remain the same. Bob Wagner and Justin Oser are still stuck in a virtual tie at the top with 9 points apiece. Mike Radzuzinski is in 3rd place, still within striking distance with 6 points. For all the details and how to enter, visit thefisherman.com/contests.
That weekly cover this week, the New Jersey Delaware Bay edition with Randy Siprich and his Dream Boat doormat. Take note of the call out there, that text in the middle. It says, this comes from our weekly reports, by the way. We do this every Sunday upload the reports Sunday. You get your digital weekly edition on Monday, or you get the print edition that week. But this came from this weekend's reports. Bluefin move nearer shore. That had a lot to do with Tom P's offshore forecast and his reports that you can find at thefisherman.com under fishing reports. Well, I got this video from Chris Merck this week. It was shot by 13-year-old Robbie Ritter from Tabernacle, New Jersey, on the beach, Surf City, Long Beach Island. How's that for near-shore bluefin? Last I heard, that tuna was carted off the beach in the back of a pickup truck. No, you cannot get an HMS permit for a pickup truck. And you can't get one with your beach badge either, or with your buggy permit. But that wouldn't stop me from bringing sushi home from a walk on the beach either. Not if I saw that. I heard from Craig Wartz this week. He sneaked out with his brother on Sunday. They headed for the lumps in search of bluefin, roughly 25 miles off Belmar. 76-degree water, found a lot of life, but no tuna. They did score a 19-pound mahi. That came home for a taco dinner. It was taken on a sterling zucchini side tracker. Check out Jimmy Frieda's article in this week's Digital Weekly Edition. Fly fishing for mahi on those pots and flyers and debris. That's on page 31 if you want to flip through the digital edition. You can also find that at thefisherman.com. Just find that cover photo, this week's cover, Randy Siprich, and go to all the articles that are contained in there. Our lead image for this week's video fishing forecast, Duncan Hathaway, Tom Peters, and Jesse Ing also went looking for bluefin this week. Finding a slow bite, they made a move from the mid-range grounds. Found a ruckus, another ruckus, about 30 feet off the stern. Saw something piling on bait, tossed a popper, got tight with a 68-inch white marlin. Duncan said the fish was absolutely exhausted, close to death, when they got him along boat side. Made the tough call, given the fact they didn't expect him to survive, given that condition. They waded in at Bill's on the Manasquan, 82-pound white marlin on a topwater popper. Now, I've eaten marlin before. So have a lot of folks who fish those offshore tournaments that bring in those marlin for weigh-in. Quite tasty, I can assure you. Now, yeah, it's legal. Not a lot of marlin are taken, usually just for the tournaments, but an exhausted one like that, that's a heck of a catch. If you're heading out to the mid-range or offshore grounds this week, it looks pretty good. From the Hudson to Baltimore, offshore, 3 to 5 on Friday, 3 to 4s on Saturday and Sunday. So it does look like a pretty good day, a pretty good weekend offshore. Tuna Express, run it hard. AP News this week, let's hit some headlines. Reporter Wayne Perry noted 3 events last week, highlighted the uneven progress of the industrial offshore wind projects here in the Northeast, including the start of a major project in New York, research aimed at preventing environmental damage in New Jersey, and that temporary shutdown of the Vineyard Wind sites up off of New England we talked about last week. The turbines blew up. They washed along the beaches. They're still pulling fiberglass fragments from the ocean waters and the beaches. Debris strewn all across Nantucket. Now, as someone who is personally and professionally opposed to industrial offshore wind, I'm opposed to the industrialization of our oceans for any purpose. I can say that the New Jersey research angle contained in Wayne Parry's article does give me something to embrace. According to Sean LaTourette, commissioner of the New Jersey Department of Environmental Protection, nearly $5 million is being made available for scientific research projects to document current environmental conditions in the areas where wind farms are planned and to predict and perhaps prevent potential harm to the environment, as we saw last week off of Nantucket. Commissioner LaTourette was quoted in the piece as saying that advancing science could help ensure that industrial offshore wind is developed responsibly and in a manner that minimizes impacts to our, quote, precious coastal environment. More science is good. Now, I believe that NJDEP actually stands to receive tens of millions of dollars through planned industrial offshore wind development, so one would hope that some of that money is going to be used for fisheries research and to protect our resources. As I said, we're roughly halfway through the summer of 2024, and I don't need a calendar to tell you that. I just know from the first red ripe beefsteak in the garden this week. Haven't picked it yet. I'm waiting for this weekend, hoping to add it, nice thin slice, to a fresh fluke sandwich. Wish me luck. Wish me luck. I'll wish you luck. We'll wish us both luck. We'll have all the luck that we need heading into this final weekend of July. Some kinder winds and hopefully some hungrier fish. Catch them up. We'll talk again next week right here at thefisherman.com.